Hey, welcome to the Drep and Stone podcast, the podcast where two friends raise a glass and have a conversation. I'm Nick.
I'm Kyle.
Kyle.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, how's your week?
So far, so good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Anything?
We're plowing through the week as we normally do in this lovely Florida heat. I actually watched a thing the other day that said, for the U.S. as a whole, are we really experiencing this heat wave?
Yeah.
Is it really like the highest temperatures everywhere, or is this kind of average and we're all just being dramatic?
Yeah.
And the guy was like, but there is one place,
Florida,
where it is hotter than normal. Florida. I was like, okay, thank goodness I'm not like losing my mind, because it is awful.
I gotta say something. I went back and listened to the last couple episodes.
Yeah.
Like every episode, we're like, damn it, it's hot.
It is hot as hell up in here. This week hasn't been as bad.
No, actually, this week, I feel like old men talk about weather.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. This week, it hasn't been bad. It's actually, I would say it's back to our normal pattern.
Yeah, I would say, like, I mean, I work at a location where I have like a good 10-minute walk to the car.
Sure.
And it has been relentless.
Yeah.
For the past few months.
Yeah.
And like now it's like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to die on the way to the car.
We've talked about this, but like our gym is a free range gym, as we've said.
You're right.
And like this week, just this week alone, like going into the gym, it's like, wow. This still sucks. Like, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it doesn't feel like the seventh realm of hell.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know,
Cut the edge off.
It's getting better.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to use the F word.
No.
That 4-letter F word. Fall.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not getting close to like fall weather.
Gotcha.
It's all right. Anyway.
You done anything interesting lately?
No. You know what? I will say this. I have started watching a show.
Ooh.
That I'm like halfway through.
Yeah.
What's available.
Yeah.
And I'm in love with it.
What show is that?
Peaky Blinders.
Half of what's available. What do you mean?
Well, there's 6 seasons available.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Essentially done.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, there's been hard hints of maybe we'll do a movie or something like that beyond it.
Yeah. Okay.
And
you've never seen it before.
I haven't. Like, it's been on the to-do list for a long time.
I was gonna say, I remember when I watched all of it, and it was like, you're gonna love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those daunting series of each episode's an hour long.
Sure.
It's like you got to be ready to take that on.
Yeah,
because they deal with some stuff.
Yeah, it's a bit heavy.
Yeah, and you got to have a whole bottle of whiskey beside you because, man,
and 6-pack of cigarettes,
it's just encouraging.
hand rolled.
Yeah,
in your beautiful little case.
It's just too tempting to not.
We were texting back and forth about it, and literally, like, it's this show and Mad Men that when I watched that, I just wanted to chain smoke and just drink bottles of whiskey.
Yeah,
and
it's impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't do that.
No, I'm saying it's impressive how they do that.
Oh,
because it's really put an uptick in my consumption over the past few days since I've started like bulldozing through these series.
I went back and I looked it up of like, how do they film with cigarettes now? Because I know that they can't use real cigarettes. So what are they doing?
Sure.
And I watched this interview with Cillian Murphy. And he's like, yeah, we smoke these like rose, like herbal cigarettes.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's still gotta suck.
Yeah.
Like, as much as you're lighting these things and like you're not inhaling them, but you're like putting that smoke in your mouth. I'm like, God, it's gotta suck.
Yeah.
And what's John Hamm kind of said the same thing when they were filming Mad Men. He's like, basically it was like, light the cigarette, act as if you smoke, and then just hold the cigarette.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely part of the aesthetic.
Sure.
And I saw a similar interview where he was talking about like after Oppenheimer, like I don't want to touch anything that's smoking forever.
Yeah.
Ever again.
Yeah.
So he's definitely gonna be like avoiding roles that do that. But loving it. That's definitely gonna be an episode at some point in time.
Oh man.
For sure.
All right, Kyle, you ready to drink something?
You know it?
What do you want to drink?
I don't know, but my Glencairn is sitting here staring at me, waiting to be filled.
Speaking of Glencairn,
Yeah?
guess who we are joined by this episode?
You're going to have to tell me.
We
Let
are
me
joined by Darren from Glencairn. Darren, how are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you? All right?
We're doing
just
well.
fine.
Yeah, doing well as well.
Well as well.
Yeah. So, Darren, we'd love to hear a little bit about, first of all, the whiskey glass, but also
thank you very much.
A little bit about your kind of role with Glencairn Crystal as a whole, and I don't know, just kind of what are you doing?
Yeah, which is actually a good question sometimes in the office. What is Darren doing? Because I'm often out at whiskey shows, which we can classify as networking,
There you go.
and spreading the good word of the Glencairn Glass. So, yeah, I've been with Glencairn for 3 years now, doing business development, which is a fancy word for someone who goes around whiskey shows, drinking whiskey, networking, and spreading the good word of the Glencairn Glass. Day to day, though, when I'm not out drinking, I'm in the office. I'm part of the sales team, picking up orders, processing orders, and just doing my best to try and promote this Glencairn Glass.
That sounds awesome. You know, if somebody would have told me, like in college, hey, you could be a rep for one of the best whiskey glasses ever made.
I didn't see that major.
Yeah,
I didn't see that one listed.
no.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that I've joined the company in the glory years. I mean, it's been a hard slog to get to this point. I think it's 43 years the company's been going since 1981. And I've just turned up right when everything's amazing. So I can't even take any credit for getting this far. That's all down to the guys, the Davidson family that run the business.
Darren, I think that's like a perfect place to start. Like, could you give us a brief little kind of history of the Glencairn?
Yeah, so you first have to go back to the early 80s for when Glencairn was first formed as a company by Raymond Davidson. So he started Glencairn because he saw an opportunity in the decanter side of the business. So in the kind of late 80s, early 90s, single malt whiskey started becoming more popular in comparison to the blends that were the most common thing to be drinking at the time. So Raymond saw an opportunity to have a higher end packaging option for these brands. You'll know yourself, if you're going to pay $500-$600 for a bottle of whiskey, you don't want it to come in something that's a standard tall, slim 70 cl bottle.
Absolutely.
So that's how the business first started. Then a couple of years later, through what I think was being served too many nice whiskies in the wrong glass. I mean, we hear stories in Glencairn of Raymond ordering whiskies in a wine glass. Because he just wants to eliminate the element of getting something in a nice kind of wide, kind of dumpy tumbler that he can't really fully appreciate the whiskey.
Sure.
So from that, he decided he was going to make his own glass, and this is still in the 80s. But because the company had only just started, he never had the resources, he never had the time. Time probably being the main thing, because he had a young family. He was the shipping department, the packaging department, the accounts team, the sales team. It was everything combined.
Right.
So he created a Glencairn glass. He got the prototype and left it alone. He sat it in a cabinet somewhere to fester for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Until along came Paul, his oldest son, and he discovered it in a drawer somewhere. And here we are today. It's now the world's favourite whiskey glass.
That's incredible.
So the Glencairn as we know it now, is that the original design?
So this is new information I only learned today. So I've been with Glencairn for 3 years now. So I was always of the understanding that the Glencairn glass was one design. It was taken to the master blenders, the master distillers of the time, who were the industry experts, and they could get the best input into how the glass should look. But hot off the press, I spoke to Paul today, and he told me there was 3 designs made in the beginning, not all together. There was the initial concept, which was a little shorter, and not quite the same shape, but it was kind of thereabouts. But with that shape, it was close enough to the Glencairn shape, with the input of the master blenders of the time, that it soon became the Glencairn glass.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's wild.
You know, in terms of the shape of the glass, which I know we'll get into, you know, what I appreciate about the Glencairn is not only its size, but that little base at the bottom that you can, hold. You can it's got some heft to it. that's what I really appreciated, just in terms of the design that ultimately the company decided upon.
Yeah, well, it's not too feminine as well. It's not too masculine, I find, as well. So a lot of people had difficulties using capitas. If you wanted to nose your whiskey and fully appreciate everything about it, you would have to get a capita or a schnapps glass or something of that ilk. There was nothing really in the kind of this kind of shape. This is not quite a tumbler. It's not quite a capita. It's just kind of that happy medium that everyone can appreciate.
So when would you say, about what time period did the company start seeing that ramp up of the Glencairn becoming what it is now?
If there was a single moment, not that I was there to experience it, because I'm just a glory hunter now. I'm just here for the for the fortune and fame.
That's right.
But I hear stories about the initial launch of the glass, because the glass lay dormant in a cupboard for 20 years, or a drawer somewhere, for 20 years before it was then discovered again by Paul. And it took until, I think it was the year 2001, for them finally to get the glass right, produce enough that they could get an order. And the initial big launch was at Whisky Live in London. And what a better place that you could to launch the glass, when you've got all the most well-respected industry professionals in the one room, all drinking out of your glass. It probably doesn't get any better than that as a platform for the launch of the glass. Right.
Absolutely. I want to circle back around to, you mentioned whiskey shows. And
yes,
if anyone finds you on Twitter or X or whatever, which is how we met you, they'll see a huge list of whiskey shows. So tell us kind of about the whiskey shows, what goes into that, and what kind of fun you guys have there.
Well, and in case my boss is listening, they're not that much fun. It's a lot of work. It's real hard craft. Yeah. We don't stop working. We're there morning till night. Someone has to drink the whiskey. Someone has to entertain our customers. It's a tough gig. You guys can appreciate that. It's hard.
It is. It's a lot of work.
But yeah, my first ever whiskey show actually is quite a funny story. Of all places to have your first ever whiskey show experience, which they call it a whiskey show. It's a whiskey buffet. You can drink as much as you want, but within reason.
That's my kind of buffet.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
So my first ever show was in Paris, Whisky Live in Paris. And I was keen. I'd only just started with the company, wanted to make an impression. So I was trying to do my best to talk about the whiskey when really we're glass people. We should be there talking about the glass. But I was focused on learning about whiskey, which I've now become almost obsessed with.
Likewise.
And I approached one of the whiskey stands, and I was trying to kind of come across as I know what I'm talking about. And there was two whiskies in front of me. One was a long finish, as it was described to us, and one was a short finish. So in my head, I thought, that's a 50-50 chance. I'm going to roll the dice here, and I'm going to try and figure out. I'm going to say that's the long finish. So yeah, I'm sure you can guess where that story went. I got embarrassed because apparently it was very obvious, but I didn't have a clue.
Sure.
Yeah. In fact, fast track to the end of that evening, actually. I think it was about 3 in the morning by the time we were heading back to our hotel. And on the way back, we were walking. We were almost at the hotel at the Gare du Nord train station. And all we heard behind us was these footsteps. And they were getting louder and louder and louder.
Right.
So we turned, and there was 3... I mean, the more I tell this story, the taller the guys get. These 8 feet tall guys were running towards us, and we weren't going to take any risk. We thought they were going to try and rob us, so we took off and ran. And me, having been a boxer in my previous life, I had a reputation in the office. Darren's a boxer. Darren, if there's any trouble, Darren can handle himself.
Sure.
So by the time we got back to the office, it was Darren was the best runner in the world. He was like, what?
He's quick.
I think the managing director, Paul, he said he's less Lennox Lewis, more Carl Lewis.
There you go.
I won't even claim that as my own joke.
That's pretty good. Man, yeah, we actually just attended a beer festival, which I know you guys have in Europe as well. But it's kind of the same idea. It's like, getting together with a bunch of friends and talking about, in this case, beer. And it sounds like just a lot of fun. So in terms of that, I know that you mentioned, obviously you were representing a glass company. So, when someone comes up to you, your table or booth or whatever it is, what do you guys kind of talk about?
Well, this is the funny thing again, is that we don't have an actual table. We don't have a stand.
Oh.
Which we're just there to kind of network, really, and go around, and most of the time it's people we already know, it's brands we're already familiar with, and it's almost just catching up with old friends. But sometimes there will be the odd brand there that we don't know much about, or we will know something about them, but they won't carry our glass. And it's just a quick hello. There's none of this like pushy salesman tactics.
Right.
We're not there with a gun in our hands trying to get them to buy glasses or anything. But yeah, that's what we're about. We are though. We do take a stand. Sorry, in America. I think our sales director Jason, he's over for ADI in Vegas just now. Is that on just now?
Mm-hmm.
I really should know this. My boss is not in the office. We're all swinging from the lights. And incidentally, actually, I'm over in America next month to Kentucky Bourbon Festival. I'm not sure if you guys will be in the area. I know you guys are based up in Florida, so it's a bit of a round trip for you guys.
Yeah, that's a little far for us.
Should make it happen, though.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I would imagine at this point in time, for you guys, it is kind of more just a not so much of an introduction of this is who we are. It's certainly more of a this is who we are.
Yeah, and we're very fortunate of that position. And I mean, it's been a long slog. I think the Glencairn's been going now 22 years, if I'm not mistaken. And we're just in a great position in the industry. The rise of single malt. I think it's a more educated consumer. We all like to know more about what we're drinking. Whereas kind of in the 90s and kind of early 2000s, me personally, I would have drank anything. But people want to try something different. They want to talk about it. And that's what the Glencairn Glass does. It promotes you and it encourages you to talk about what you have in your glass, as opposed to just knocking them back to get blackout wasted.
Absolutely.
That's such a good point, because I mean, when you think about what we do, you think about what the whiskey community at large, if you just want to drink brown liquid in a glass, you can find any glass. But if you want to, think and contemplate and taste,
have an experience,
sure. That's what I appreciate about the Glencairn, and that's, to me, that's what makes it, again, the perfect whiskey glass.
Yeah, which goes back to the reason the glass was invented. You look at brandy. Brandy was a tremendous spirit. It took years to mature. The production process was very expensive. These cognacs and brandies were presented in nice bottles, and they were then served in a lovely brandy snifter. You look at wine. Wine's got these really fancy grapes. You've got your Chateauneuf du Pape. They go in a lovely wine glass. You look at champagne. Champagne had the flute, which is now known as a champagne glass.
Right.
So that's kind of, I think that was the main mission of Raymond, is that whiskey should have its own glass that it can call its own.
Yeah. And what I love about the whiskey community, whether it be, bottlers or distillers or people like ourselves, is that it seems like the community as a whole has just embraced it. That you find a good product and it works. Why mess with it? Is that a good way to say it?
I would say so, and it's also, I think it was a moment of, why haven't we done this sooner? Why are we now in this position where we've found something that seems so obvious? I mean, I meet people who've been in the industry for like much the same time I have, for 3 years. And when I explain to them, you do know the Glencairn's only been around for just over 20 years, and they look at me as if I've just said something ridiculous, like I've just invented this magical thing. So yeah, it was just kind of right place, right time, and it just it's been adopted by everyone.
That was totally my experience just now. Like, I'm thinking of my whiskey journey of maybe starting really getting into it 7-8 years ago. And I remember, I can still remember the first time I had whiskey in a Glencairn, and it being like this revelatory experience of like, this is what it's meant for, not to be drinking it out of this rocks glass, just because it was such a better experience with the whiskey. That that was the assumption, was like, oh yeah, no, this has always been here and I just didn't know about it. So yeah, to find out that it's really like a 20-year-old thing is just mind-blowing.
It's crazy. And I remember my first experience of the Glencairn Glass was before I started working there. I used to work for a hotel that the family that owned Glencairn used to come in quite often. And Paul, he was good friends with the owner. And one of the times he came in with a box of Glencairns and said, you need to serve your whiskies in them. What are you doing? Because we had some really nice whiskies on the gantry. And I remember looking at it going, that'll never catch on. I mean, I'm looking at it, I'm going, it makes sense.
Sure.
But at the time, I wasn't really a whiskey drinker. But I was like, yeah, good for you,
Yeah,
buddy.
I like it.
That's good luck.
Can't fit much ice in that glass.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge blob.
And I think like the whiskey, at least here in America, the whiskey boom has, the Glencairn and the whiskey boom have coincided at the same time.
Yeah.
And whether it be just spot on marketing or whether it just be sheer luck,
amazing timing.
Just amazing time. Yeah, that it is. I think it's become that kind of thing of people don't even think about the genesis of that, where that thing came from, how that came to be. It's just
it just seems like they've always been there.
Yeah, that's the glass you use.
Right.
As I said, much like wine and brandy and champagne, you almost think that those glasses have been there forever.
Right.
Almost like it's so obvious that something like that already existed. So it's about time someone did something about it.
Indeed.
And if it took for Raymond to be served some really nice whiskies in some really bad glasses for this to happen, then I'm glad it did.
Absolutely.
Oh, and that's certainly where I'm at now. If I go to a whiskey bar or a restaurant and I order a whiskey and it doesn't come in a Glencairn, I'm extraordinarily disappointed. Yeah. And like that place is already kind of like, all right, you just lost your credentials there. Yeah,
I might be that guy that might carry a Glencairn in his pocket.
Indeed.
And I may just have to pull this out. Like.
Everywhere we go.
Yeah. I'm totally that guy. I won't name the location, but I was at a prominent facility in Dublin, and they had a beautiful array of Irish whiskey. I asked for a couple different things to do a tasting, and they served everything to me in rocks glasses. And I look over, and I look at the bartender, and we had a good chat, and I'm like, you've got Glencairns there. Why don't you put the whiskey in the Glen? Like, what are you doing? And he, like, this look of, oh, yeah, kind of came over his face. I'm like, you are, like...
I shouldn't be explaining this to you.
Yeah. And that guy was never seen again.
Exactly. And
he just slowly descends behind the
bar. Slides his resignation as he's descending.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. But, we had a discussion kind of in that same vein of, these were great whiskeys. These were really great whiskeys that I wanted to try, and I want to experience the whiskey. Again, if I just wanted to, drink some brown liquid, cool, but I wanted to experience it. Yeah, exactly. And I'm with Kyle, and the same kind of thing of if I go to a place and they don't have a Glencairn and I'm looking for a whiskey experience, I pull out my own. And
long may that continue. I like that. Yeah, it's almost that's you. You've already lost a star on TripAdvisor.
Absolutely.
It's an automatic -1.
Yeah, would have loved to have given you a 10, but couldn't do it. They serve their whiskey in a rocks glass.
They have 1,500 whiskeys behind the bar. But
but
man,
it came in a dirty rocks glass.
Yeah.
So for us, and I know that as we were kind of planning this talk with you, this is absolutely the Drep and Stone glass of choice. I mean, I won't discuss the other glasses that we have, but I mean, there's, we've got several other types of glasses here. Mm-hmm. They're fine, but they're not the Glencairn. That's it.
The thing is, every glass has a place. I think they all have a use. They all have a purpose. Whether it even be whiskey glasses, rum, vodka, all sorts of spirit glasses, they all have a purpose. But when it comes to nosing your whiskey, you've got your Capitas, Glencairn, schnapps glasses and stuff. For me, the Glencairn has just found that sweet spot of being robust enough that it's not too dainty and it doesn't sit in your dishwasher, and you're scared that it's going to go in there. It's easy to be tactile with. It just does the job, as we said. It's
right.
Back to the initial message is that it just makes sense. It just does the job.
Right. It provides the roll on the side, which is the absolute best. I'm really curious.
I fell victim to that myself, where you knock it over, but you don't really lose your whiskey, which I wonder if that was one of the things that Raymond specified when he had the final detailed drawings of the glass.
Right.
I need to be able to knock this over.
You mentioned, just some of the design stuff too. It's one of those, like, because of how robust it feels, sometimes I forget that it also is glass and it can be a fragile thing. And at this point, I've probably broken easily 8 Glencairns. I'm sure.
Yeah,
likewise.
It's unfortunate, but
yeah, it is unfortunate. But we replaced them right away.
Right away.
Yeah, and now you've got a direct connection to the mother source of the glass. You guys have got them on tap now. Of course, you can get any Glencairns you want.
For sure.
Incidentally, we've got an American brand representative that lives in Chicago. I'm not sure if you've ever came across Martin Duffy.
I don't know.
What he tells us that every American knows him. He's the most famous man in America, second only, sorry, to Donald Trump. But we won't get into politics. But Marty represents us in Chicago, and he covers the whole of North America on his own, doing whiskey shows, promoting the Glencairn Glass. So if you're ever in Chicago or those kind of areas, definitely hit him up on socials and he'll look after you.
Was just in Chicago last fall. Totally missed it.
Yeah.
I'll be going back though.
Maybe
Love
he's
Chicago.
not as famous as he thinks he is.
Infamous.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just
I like to
know.
I like to remind him. Yeah, he was just over here. Like every single year, he comes back to Scotland, and we all take chances, taking him out and taking him somewhere in Scotland as an experience, or just taking a touch base with us back at headquarters. And me and him, we went out and did a couple of distilleries, and we went to Holyrood Distillery up in Edinburgh, and then up to Loch Lomond, and such is there's a common theme here when Marty comes here. I take him to distilleries and I drive, and by the time we get back to where he's staying, whichever hotel, is that I need to peel him out the car. Like, yeah, that's the sign of a good night.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So we were wondering if, and I don't know if this is something that you do when you're out and about, but how does one taste whiskey from a Glencairn?
Now, I think I need to channel my inner Richard Patterson here. And trust me, I'm not going to throw any whiskey away because I'm in my front living room, which I'm not normally allowed in right now. Now, I don't claim to be any sort of expert in whiskey. I'm a student like the rest of us. But for me, with the Glencairn Glass, it starts with a very heavy pour, but not too much. Not a 10 mil. You're talking about 25, 35 mils. And it's all about kind of the colour, holding it up to the light, appreciating the colour. Is the whiskey oily? Is it sticking to the glass much? Can you tell much about it before you stick your nose in it? Then it's another few swirls. Has it got any legs? Do you think it's going to be a waxy spirit just from the look of it? Is it going to be light? And you can make your assumptions just by the look that the glass gives you the opportunity to do. From there, it's kind of, as Richard Patterson will tell you, it's in with the nose. Hello, how are you? And after a couple of kind of nice long kind of pauses and smells, it's then onto the palate, and that's it in a nutshell, gents. That's what it's all about.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, I'm sure Richard would be proud of you.
Well, funnily enough, Richard is in our offices often enough because he's good friends with Paul, and I know he won't mind me saying this, but it doesn't matter if he's there at 7:30 in the morning or 7:30 at night. He's still got the suit, the pocket square, the tie is done up to the top.
I appreciate that.
Most immaculately dressed man in the industry.
You know, I think though, like if you met him and he wasn't dressed like that, you'd be a little disappointed.
Like,
He's got shorts and t-shirt on. Who's this guy?
Exactly.
Darren, let me ask you this. So, I mean, in the time that we've been drinking from Glencairns, I've even seen the uptick in kind of copycats and things like that. But are there any kind of like specific details that make it the Glencairn? Like, is there something about the base? Is there something about the bulb of the glass?
Well, this is probably the biggest problem that we have with the success of the glass, is that when you make something so obviously popular to the industry, everyone wants to copy it. Everyone wants to piggyback off the back of that, and they want to make some money off of it. So every day almost, we are constantly battling fakes and replicas around the world. We've got a lawyer's firm that works for us in most major capital cities around the world, constantly fighting for fakes. And you wouldn't believe the places we find fakes. I mean, from bars that are across the road, to the back end pubs in Ireland. There's fakes all over the place. But such is the nature of such a popular product.
Sure.
It's something you're always going to get. So that's why we would always suggest that you go to a reputable kind of liquor store, or you would buy it from Amazon. And if it doesn't say Glencairn Crystal, it's not going to be the real McCoy.
Right.
I just checked the ones that are here on the table, and they all say, Glencairn Crystal.
Yeah, for sure.
This is the telltale sign for us, is lead-free crystal. So you're going to get that kind of high-pitched, sharp noise. It's got the stamp on the bottom, and then the shape. The shape is very unique. Sometimes the fakes can't quite replicate what we do, because they're making it in a cheaper kind of glass material.
Sure.
Ours are exclusively made from lead-free crystal, hence the nice high pitch. Whereas kind of fakes will be made more of a flint glass or a soda lime, and it'll be more like a kind of dull, clunky noise when you try to get that nice noise.
Very interesting.
It's one of my favorite sounds.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's how we close every episode.
There's two favourite sounds. Is the kind of the high pitched noise from the glass, and then that first kind of pulling the cork out of that bottle.
Yes, there's nothing.
Yeah.
The deep glug of the fresh bottle.
The fresh pour. That initial pop. What are you drinking? What do you have in your glass?
I have Locklee Harvest second edition. So this was only released last week, and I very kindly was gifted a sample bottle when I was up visiting the distillery last week. Again, I was driving, so I got their brand new release away with me, so it's nice. What about you guys? Is it Bunnahabhain 12?
Yeah, just the 12.
Drinking?
Yeah, we're going to record a couple episodes after talking to you, so we just we put kind of a standard is not right. We put
a personal favorite,
a perennial favorite.
Yeah, widely available as well. It's not something too kind of niche that's hard to come by.
Exactly, and you can't see the whiskey shelf behind you, but you know, of all the things, so it's like, let's just go with something.
We got 9 bottles of Bunnahabhain.
9 bottles of Bunnahabhain. Yeah.
Different Bunnas.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you ever been over and seen the distillery yourselves?
We neither one of us have. I was actually supposed to go over and kind of do a tour of Scotland this past summer, and it worked out where we ended up going to Italy and Ireland and Greece for a little while. Instead, just like the way everything kind of lined up, it worked out better that way. But kind of planning it out maybe for next summer.
Definitely on the to-do list.
Yeah.
Well, definitely swing past Glencairn. We'd be more than happy to welcome you there, and you could spend a bit of time and see what we have in our factory. It would be good to show you guys the other side of the business that most people don't know about us, and that is that 50% of our business is made up of the bespoke decanters for high value and old age statement whiskies.
That would be incredible. That'd be so cool.
One I'm thinking of off the top, we recently did a decanter for a Gordon and MacPhail 80-year-old. Which I'm surprised there was still liquid left in the cask.
Right.
I'm told there was enough left for them to make quite a bit of money.
Had to squeeze the staves.
like ringing out the pieces of wood. So yeah, we did that for them. I don't know if you saw the decanter. It's a nice kind of cube shaped, almost like a perfume bottle type shape.
Sure.
So the things we've got going on are just crazy.
That's
all
so
from
cool.
those humble beginnings of Raymond starting a business just to make bottles and decanters for whiskey.
So when Glencairn as a company does those kind of decanters and those special bottlings, is it mainly for scotches? Is it for any other kinds of whiskeys?
It's everything. I mean, in the beginning, and again, this is to the best of my knowledge. In the beginning, I'm assuming it was mostly Scotch. Now all the other kind of regions are all starting to catch up with the older age statements. Ireland, bourbon. We've bottled a lot of kind of older age statement rums as well. As that category starting to kind of grow as well. We've did vodkas. We've did decanters for quite a lot of different things.
And would you say that like the success of the glass has helped like bolster that side of it? Are they just kind of like hand in hand?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I think the business would still be very profitable had the Glencairn Glass not come along. I think more efforts would have been kind of focused on the decanter side of things.
Right.
But the glass just gave us the platform. It gave us the contacts around the world.
Right.
I mean, it opens doors. Everyone knows about the glass, and that's kind of the usual introduction.
Sure.
To us, yeah.
So speaking of that, what's on the horizon for Glencairn? Any interesting developments in the near future?
Well, gents, if I told you, I would have to kill you. Is the easy answer.
Our wives would be pissed, or they'd be happy. One of the two. I don't know which.
Recent innovations at Glencairn. We a couple of years ago we brought out the coloured glasses. I'm not sure if you've saw much about those. The reason being was for blind tastings. We brought initially it was just the black Glencairn.
Yes.
As more of a, it wasn't quite more of a gimmick. It was more of a just let's see what happens.
Right.
It's going to be fun, and we launched the glass. Say it was on the Thursday. Everyone came into the office on the Friday, and the website had crashed with the demand for it. The phones were hanging off the lines. We just couldn't keep up with it, and yeah, it was a bit of a learning experience for us that there's something there for this coloured glass,
right.
Which we then released all the different colours to help with blind tastings. So you think if you're doing a tasting, you can pour the heavily sherried whiskey in the red glass, you can pour the peated whiskey in the black glass, which you leave to the very end.
Right.
And then all along the line, you can kind of keep track of what's in which glass.
That's so cool. I missed that. Well, when did that one launch?
It was a couple of years ago, about two and a half, maybe 3
2.5
years ago.
years ago, yeah.
We brought out the coloured glasses.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, to what you said, like let's just see what happens. When I first saw those, I was like, huh.
Brilliant.
And like literally, I was like, we should get one.
Yeah.
Like just to see like.
Oh, we should get a dozen.
Yeah. What does it do to not be able to see the liquid? And then I went to go find them, and your website was out of them. All the major retailers that were going to carry them out of them. So I was like, well, okay, we'll get it at some point.
We'll get them eventually.
Missed the boat.
That's right.
I did try. Yeah. It almost does seem like counterintuitive, doesn't it? It's like we brought out a glass that allows you to fully appreciate every aspect of the whiskey, including the nose, including the colour, the oiliness, the legs, and then to just cover it all up.
Right.
But that was the focus of it, is that you get to nose, and you have to really trust your nose to get everything out of the whiskey, which was the real reason the glass was invented. The statistic is that 80% of your taste comes from your smell. Now, feel free to Google fact check me on that, because that might not be 100% accurate. But when you think about your taste buds, you can only pick up so much. I think there's 5 different sensations you can get on your taste buds: saltiness, sweet, etc. But so to then add in the nose being the kind of main focus when you're having a whiskey, it really does change the whole drinking experience.
Yeah, when you take that away, you're focused on what does this liquid smell like and what does this liquid taste like without being able to see it, and that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and that might, whether that's good or bad, because I don't know about you guys. I've sat in quite a few tastings, and sometimes I wish people would stop nosing their whiskey when they some of the tasting notes that you hear at these things, and people are saying these tasting notes as a compliment. They're saying, "Oh, I'm getting like a burnt hair and like." You know, petrol. You know that kind of real petroleum smell. I'm getting that, and then they're looking at it as if it's the nicest thing they've ever tried.
It's beautiful.
How do those two things go together?
We were joking with a friend of the show about that exact thing of like, you know, as people who are, you know, whiskey nerds and love talking about whiskey, we try to stay as true to like this is what we're getting and not making things up because I mean
honest, like
as honest as possible,
right?
Because I've read things, it's like you're getting what
really.
Unlike me, who will go to a whiskey show and lie through his teeth which I learned very quickly not to do. So I learned my lesson at the first whiskey show I went to that, if you don't experience it, if you're not picking up anything, you're as well just saying nothing and listening to what everyone else says.
Right. Well, I think you just kind of said it there in that last little bit of I think that's the greatest compliment that you can give the Glencairn is that it enhances all five senses. It enhances every experience of the drink, and I think literally that's the best thing that you can say about it because it absolutely does.
100%.
Couldn't agree more, gents. Couldn't agree more.
Darren, as we kind of wrap up here, do you have anything that you want to plug for Glencairn Crystal?
Well, Glencairn aside, I would like to plug myself when I'm over for Kentucky Bourbon Festival.
Absolutely.
If anyone sees me at the festival, just mind your own business unless you're buying me a drink. I'm a big fan of old age statement whiskies. Anything kind of over the $500 mark. Thank you very much. I'll go with that.
Nice. You put that in my list.
Us too.
Yeah, I like that one. Save that for later.
But in all seriousness, check us out on whiskyglass.com. Make sure that you're buying your Glencairn glasses from a reputable reseller. The kind of telltale signs are the stamp on the base and the nice kind of lead crystal sound of the glass. You can pick one up anywhere for around $10. And thank you very much for your time.
Indeed. Thank you, sir.
It's been a pleasure, and I've had a lot of fun, and I've learned a ton about the thing that we use every week.
Yeah, no. Like, this is like absolute, like, complete geek mode of, like, this is what we love about whiskey is, like, give me the details. Yeah. And this has been awesome. Yeah. Absolutely.
And gents, I would like to sign off with, may your Glencairn glass ever flow and your ass never show.
Absolutely. That is perfect. Cheers, buddy.
Dude.
Hey.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, that was so much fun talking to Darren, learning about, like, literally, I know that we said this in the episode, but about the thing that we use all the time.
Yeah, and I'm still reeling that the fact that, like, that the Glencairn hasn't been around forever.
No.
I assumed that like, was invented at the same time as, like, whiskey.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, just makes sense.
Whiskey in the jar and Glencairn on the counter?
There you go.
Is that the song? That's the song, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's the verse.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Whiskey in the jar, Glencairn on the bar.
On the bar.
There it is.
There it is. That's a little more poetic.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how that worked.
That's the way it works for me.
That's the verse I sing.
Yeah.
I don't know about, anybody else.
Totally.
Anyway. Yeah, it's incredible to, learn about the things that you really enjoy. And I know that we mentioned it multiple times in the episode of, like, how much we love this glass, and it's not just because Darren's here. Like, literally, I mean, right now I have 12 of them,
right? Which
is probably not enough.
Yeah. And I've never put it into that kind of context of, like, it literally enhances all five senses.
Yeah.
The touch, the feel of the glass, it fits in your hand so well.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect for really digging into the nose. Like, it's perfect for all those things.
Yeah.
It enhances the nose. It enhances the taste. It enhances your sight. Like, it literally hits all, and it's got that beautiful dadgum. It's just absolutely perfect, and it makes whiskey an experience. It's not just like Darren was saying, I'm not just doing this to get drunk. Like, I'm here to appreciate and have an experience with this beverage.
And when you don't have it, you absolutely notice it.
Yeah.
I mean, bar none. Like, that, it's just the truth.
Yeah. Sure.
When I do not use a Glencairn, which is very rare,
I cry. I mean, I still drink the whiskey.
Oh
but
yeah,
I'll
no,
cry
definitely. I
about it.
mean, you know, let's be honest. I'm not going to not drink the whiskey,
Yeah.
but I am a little disappointed in it.
Yeah, it's just not as enjoyable an experience.
Yeah. We want to know what your experiences are with the Glencairn Glass.
Yeah, the Glencairn. Is it an absolute staple in your bar? Because it ought to be if you're drinking whiskey.
Yeah, and if you're listening to Drep and Stone, you've probably purchased 3-4 dozen cases at this point.
Yeah,
because
you broke a handful and had to replace them.
Well, and you gave them to friends as gifts, and you've had a bunch of tastings, and people are taking them home, and they're pilfering them from you because you're in the know.
Yeah, true story. Yeah,
Yeah.
And, it's give and take.
Right,
You know, it's just that kind of a situation.
Exactly. And we also want to know, when did you figure out that this was the superior whiskey class?
Absolutely. When was your first experience with the Glencairn? Because I know you remember it.
I distinctly remember. I don't even think we addressed it in the episode, but I distinctly remember it, and it was with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I said mine.
It was the same then.
Right.
It was that experience.
Yeah, just remember the first time, this is meant to be the way that you drink whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely.
This makes all the
it's
sense
like
in the
every
world.
meme of mind blown. That's
Yeah.
exactly what happened.
Yep.
Yep. Well, you can get in touch with us through email. It's drepandstone@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us through social media.
It's always one word, Drep and Stone, DREP and Stone. Come find us wherever you like to socialize your medias.
While you're at it, why don't you find Glencairn on social media, and better yet, find Darren too.
Yeah, give them a follow.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that stuff too.
Because it's great.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. And we love it if you support the podcast. You can do that through our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/drepandstone. Keeps the fan working, keeps the lights on, the recording machines doing the recording things.
All necessities.
Yeah, that's how this all works.
The bare necessities. Paw.
You can also support Drep and Stone by rating the podcast wherever it is you find great podcasts like this one. And finally, Kyle,
Sir.
you can support Drep and Stone
Yeah.
by just telling someone about the podcast.
Yeah. Easiest, most friendly way to do it.
You're at your favorite whiskey establishment.
Yeah.
You look over,
Yep.
and they have served the person next to you a beautiful whiskey in a Glencairn.
Yeah.
And you didn't get a Glencairn for some reason.
Travesty.
You look at that bartender
Yep.
and you say, "Excuse me, sir and or madam,
Yep.
where's my Glencairn?"
Indeed.
And that person will hear you say that, and then you'll strike up a conversation about whiskey, and then you'll mention to them this great podcast you heard that you listen to all the time called Drep and Stone.
Yeah.
It's that easy.
Yeah. You'll notice that Glencairn and say, hey, did you know the Glencairn's only been around for about 20 years?
Yeah. In fact, Drep and Stone just covered it with Darren from Glencairn.
Yeah. On the podcast. They've got a whole episode just about that glass.
And you're going to love it.
Yeah.
And you just share the information with them, and then, you've made a friend, and it's a good time for all.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Whiskey squeezy.
On that note, hey, buddy,
Hey, buddy.
may your glass overflow.
No. Like Darren did it.
What?
Glencairn.
May your Glencairn overflow.
And your ass never show. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. All right. I think we should be good. I hope we're good.
There's always that time of did we push all the buttons? Is everything recording correctly?
Yeah, because it's running everything through the computer to the recording device, and then we have another device behind here to make sure it doesn't screw it. So
Yeah, well, I've listened to a bit of the podcasts, and if we go off on a tangent about the Mandalorian or something along those lines, then I'm not well versed on the Star Wars saga, but I'll do my best to join in. No, there's no rush. I'm here all night if it comes to it.
We have a guy that knows a little bit about those.
Okay.
Smooth. Yeah.
Should we not talk about the weather for 2 minutes? I literally it's been the last 6 episodes.